think that snapped. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be waterproofing the trim panels on the side of the van. This is to make sure that no water gets through and soaks the insulation on the inside. Now certain vans are more susceptible to this than others. I know that the Mercedes Sprinter is really bad for it, as well as some Fords and some VWs. I haven't heard anything about the Peugeot, so fingers crossed we don't find any scary rust behind there. All in all, should be quite a simple job. Just need to pop the plastic panels off, give it a clean, put some sealant behind the pins and then pop it back on. So yeah, hopefully not too difficult of a job. So I did actually start this job 2 weeks ago. Thinking I was being very clever, I drove to Halfords and in the car park got one of the clips from behind the first piece of trim panel just so I could get the right size. But even though I did this, the clips I got from Halfords were completely the wrong size, and so I actually ended up driving around with a piece of tape hanging on to the front piece of trim for 2 weeks. But I have now found the right size clips. I'll link them below. They are specifically for a Peugeot partner. I just googled like side trim clips for Peugeot partner, so if you've got a different type of van you could try that. So I got these tools from Halfords. They were £15, which I thought was a bit of a rip-off, to be honest with you. They came in a pack of like 5 or 6, but I do think they were useful in, we didn't snap any of the large pieces of trim, and I think we would have if we didn't have these tools, so glad we had them really. So the first step is just, yeah, popping off the side trims. Trying to get these off in one piece was the big thing we were trying to achieve. Some of the clips on my van came out, some of them didn't. Some of them had like rubber seals like these ones, some of them didn't. They were all really quite brittle, so we just decided to replace all of them. I made sure to clean behind the panels while we had them off. It just seemed like a good opportunity to get everything nice and clean while we were taking them off. I just used the ultra grime wipes here and they were brilliant for that. Then we did notice there were a couple of scratches and dents and little bits of exposed metal, so I just thought while we had the panels off I'd go in with a little bit of the Hammerite paint and just treat those little scuffs. I also gave the back of the panels themselves actually a bit of a clean while that paint dried. Again, just used the ultra grime wipes, and this just took all the dirt off really easily. Now that I did have the correct clips, they seem to go onto the vans differently depending on what type of van you have. So I've seen some videos of people doing this process where they put the clips into the van and then they just pop the trim onto it straight away. But you can see mine have this kind of sideways sliding mechanism, so I couldn't do that. I had to put all the clips into the trim piece first and then pop it on as one entire piece. So your trim pieces might look slightly different to mine. I was just lining it up here because of a problem that we have later on, which you'll see. Now we did have holes under the trim pieces that didn't have clips in, and we were umming and ahhing what to do about this. We decided to cover them with this aluminium tape, which I just got from my local hardware store for £4 maybe, and I needed this for the insulation anyway. We decided to do this rather than use body filler like the steel stick, mostly because it was easier, and also because it's behind the trim, we didn't think that it'd get loads of water in anyway. Then I went in with the Sikaflex 522, which is the same sealant I used for the roof vent, and I put a little bit of sealant around all of the holes where the clips will go. So hopefully this, combined with the tape, will just prevent any water getting into the van, especially where the insulation is. With the sealant, it's just a case of popping the trim panel back on. Now that sounds easier than it was. We did have, there was a little bit of a struggle. I don't know if the clips were a little bit too big, but not all of them were going in straight the way, and we didn't know initially if it was because they weren't lined up properly or whether it just needed a bit of force, and obviously I didn't want to break anything, especially these large pieces of plastic. So yeah, when this first happened, I thought that the clips weren't lined up properly, so we actually took half of this trim piece back off to make sure we were lining the clips up properly. However, after we'd taken it off, we realised that they were in fact lined up and it just needed force. I think because the doors were flexing quite a lot, we just couldn't, when you were just pushing the panel, the clips weren't going in. So we ended up just kind of punching the van, which is not the best strategy and not one I would recommend. We did later on go and buy a soft mallet, that you use for camping to put pegs in the ground, and that was really effective and didn't damage the van, hasn't damaged the trim, hasn't damaged the doors. So yeah, I would recommend maybe not punching the van like we did and instead investing in a mallet.